Record. All right, I'm recording. Sweet. All right. So let me go back to the screen share.
You have 12 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Let's see. Can you guys see my screen again?
Yep.
All right. Start over. Again, I'd like to thank you guys this morning for joining me early on a Saturday morning. I'm really excited to speak to you guys today, and I'm going to be talking to you about one of the core principles of success, and that is deciding what you want. But there's really three key themes to being successful. I won't be able to talk about all of them, but these, I call them themes because if you read any books on success, if you hear any inspirational stories, you will hear these three themes. And they are defining your vision, dreams, and goals, taking action, and taking 100% responsibility. You'll hear these in almost every inspirational story you hear and any book that you read on success. But today, we're going to be focused on deciding what you want. So I'd like to tell you a little bit about my story. I have a degree in civil environmental engineering, and I quit to become a stand-up comic. And I say that because most people with common sense, as you would think as engineers, would keep their day job and then do stand-up comedy at night. But I decided not to do that. I'm not that kind of personality. I like to be all in or all out. But I'm going to tell you how I came to this decision. And I had a degree in environmental engineering. I was working as an environmental engineer, and I ruptured my Achilles tendon. And I was in a cast above my knee to my thigh. And I remember it was during the winter, and because I couldn't drive, I had one of the other engineers would pick me up at work, and the days were short, so he'd pick me up when it was dark. He'd drive us to work, and I would, take my crutches and get to my little cubicle, and my little cubicle had a window. I was very lucky. I was one of the few people who had a cubicle with a window, and I would watch the sun rise from my cubicle. And then I watched the sun set, and then I get back on my crutches, get back in my car, and he'd drive me home. And I did that for about 3 weeks. And I had this kind of epiphany. I'm like, what am I doing here? Is this really what I want to do? And I said, well, let me look at it. Let me look 5 years down the road. Is this what I want to do? And I said, no. I said, 10 years down the road. Is this what I want to do? And I said, no. I said, 20 years down the road. Is this what I'm going to do? No. And the reason I did that is because, sometimes you have to sacrifice what you want now for what you want eventually. But I looked at 20 years down the road and I said, is this really what I want to do? And I said, no. And I didn't really know what I wanted to do, but I've always had in the back of my mind that, I'm a funny guy, so I'd like to do stand-up comedy. So I quit to become a stand-up comic. And let's just say there was a lot of learning opportunities there, but I made that decision. And after that decision, I took actions to get me to that picture there, where, you can see I had a little more hair. It's about, I was 30s there. And that's me at Caroline's on Broadway. So that decision, the actions, the responsibility to it got me to that point. Now, I wish I could say, look, I'm on a sitcom or whatever it was. I did book a national network commercial during this for Afrin nasal spray. So my nose is famous, but the rest of me, not so much. But I'm working on that. I actually got kind of distracted from my dream. I got very sick, and I don't tell people this very often, but I'd like to share it with you because we all get into things that distract us or maybe we allow to distract us from our vision. I was diagnosed with chronic fatigue syndrome. And I remember being in the doctor's office, and this guy was the expert in the world. People came from all over the world. He happened to be in New Jersey where I lived. And I remember him telling me, you're going to live with this for the rest of your life. And I remember looking him straight in the eye. I'm like, no, I'm not. I did not want to agree with the idea that I was going to be like this or live like this for the rest of my life. And it took me about a year to get over that illness. And at that point I said, maybe I should have a job that has medical benefits and pays me a little better than what I was making as a stand-up comic at that time. So I decided to go into a very lucrative career of primary school education. That was sarcasm. I'm glad at least one person smiling at that. That was sarcasm. But I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I love teaching. And that's one of the reasons why I'm here today is I love teaching, and hopefully we'll do it in an entertaining way. Yes. I love teaching, but I met my wife and she messed up all my plans. You can laugh at that. She's here. She's heard that joke before, so it's okay. She's blessed that joke. She was working as working at a large medical device company. They needed a corporate trainer. And essentially I said, I could do that job. And I went into corporate training. I got an increase in salary. It was very good for my financials. I basically tripled my income by doing that. So financially, that was a good one. But I've always missed teaching. And that's one of the reasons why I'm here today is I really want to teach something that's important to people that I'm passionate about. And I'm passionate about teaching these success principles to you. So I want to say, if you listened to me before, I said, I got distracted. Well, I recently decided that stand-up comedy is important to me again. And I started performing again. And I've made that decision that I'm going to do this. And I'm going to share with you my breakthrough goal, which is to be on The Tonight Show. So in 3 years from today, I intend to be on The Tonight Show performing stand-up comedy. Again, just to point out a couple of differences from when I started. Chris with hair, Chris without hair. We can see the very, very stark differences, what happens in 20 years. No graying beard, graying beard. So, just a little difference is what it is. And I bring this up because, look, there are things that will distract you if you allow them. But this is a dream that I've held, and I've decided that this is important to me. So the key thing is here deciding what you want. I'm going to share with you another story about my college roommate. So this is my college roommate. He played 13 seasons in the NFL, and he has a great formula. I sat down with him one time and said, what do you think has made you successful? He went to 5 Super Bowls, by the way. He lost all 5, but he's got a great attitude. He said, I lost a Super Bowl, but I'm going to win the party. So at every Super Bowl party, he won the party. But his formula is D plus A equals R. And what that means is decision plus action equals results. But it all starts with a decision, deciding what you want. Then you take action. From those actions, you get results, and then you can decide whether those actions are getting you closer to your goal, your decision of what you want. We can also look to Martin Luther King. If we remember Martin Luther King's speech, I have a complaint. No, he didn't have a complaint. He had a dream. When you have a dream, that's what inspires people to get involved with you, and people did. You can also think of Elvis. You've got to follow that dream wherever that dream may lead. Oh, thank you much. Sorry, I wanted to be an Elvis impersonator, but I don't have the hair for it or the singing ability. But first, you have to have a dream. It starts with that dream, that vision. I love this quote from General Wesley Clark. And when you dream, I want to encourage you to dream a big dream. And he says, it doesn't take any more effort to dream a big dream than it does to dream a small dream. So for me, getting on the Tonight Show, like I was saying, that's a big dream. And I want to bring up that I don't know the how yet. And I bring this up because sometimes we lessen our dream because how am I going to do that? Well, let your subconscious, the universe, whatever you want to say, figure that out. What you want to do is you want to dream your big dream, set it in there. And when you do that, your mind starts going, well, how am I going to make that happen? And that's what's been happening with me. I'm like, I have to tell you, this is the easiest stand-up comedy has come for writing for me since I set that dream. And I've been performing on stage, and it's some of the best experiences that I've had recently because I'm really tied to that end goal of ending up on The Tonight Show. So everything I align with that. So dream a big dream. You can also think about Darth Vader. Join me and we will rule the universe as father and son. Ruling the universe is a big dream. I encourage you to have a big dream. We can look to Sir Richard Branson, a famous entrepreneur, owner of Virgin Atlantic Airlines. He says, if your dreams don't scare you, they're too small. So dream that big dream. So what is that big dream for you? I love this one. This is my mentor's mentor. So this would be my grand mentor, I guess. Buckminster Fuller was a famous architect. He was the mentor for Jack Canfield, who I consider one of my mentors. I've actually studied with Jack Canfield. And he says, clarity is power. And this is the geodome that he created. I mean, I love that image of that. Clarity is power. When you know what you want, then you can align your actions to that vision, to that dream, to that goal. So being clear on what you want is important. So you got to decide what you want. And there's really 7 areas to have a really balanced life. There's really 7 areas that you should look into. First is your business, job, career, financial, relationships, health and fitness, fun and recreation, personal and contribution. If you want a truly balanced life, you really want to have something in each one of these areas. So I encourage you to look at these different areas. Now, I'm pretty familiar with the people on this call, and I know some of you are very, very good about setting goals. But I want to ask you, is there one area here where maybe you don't feel like you're living at its full potential? And I'd like you to look at that. Now, you might say, but I don't know where to start. A lot of people don't know where to start. So I'm going to give you a hint on helping people getting to know where to start, and maybe if you're having trouble. What are you grateful for? So look at an area of your life and say, what are you grateful for? And I'll do it really quickly here. For me, it was health and fitness. I'm grateful for the time I get to spend with my kids. What brings you joy? Well, what brings me joy is, quite honestly, playing baseball with my son. I don't know if there's anything right now that gives me more joy than playing baseball with my son. Close second would be performing stand-up comedy. See, joy is a clue that you're on the right path, and it will help you decide if you're having trouble to decide on what a goal is for it. So we have a very limited amount of time, but I'd like for you guys to take a quick minute here and look at these areas and pick one that maybe you're not realizing fully. And just choose the first one that pops out to you. And I'd like you to look at it and say, if everything were ideal, what would this look like for you? And I'll give you an example. So for me, for health and fitness, I've set a breakthrough goal of seeing my abs again. They're there. I saw them once. I think it was about 1984 when I was playing basketball. I saw them. Right now they're covered with extra stored energy. That's what I'm calling the layer of blubber around my abdominal region. So that's a goal that I've set for myself. So by April 14th, 2017, I will see my abs again. So there's a breakthrough goal for me. So I'd like you guys to take a minute to look at one of these areas, and I'll give you 30 seconds here real quickly to think about an area and a goal for you in maybe that area that you aren't realizing fully. So take that, write that down now, or maybe put it on your phone if you don't happen to have a piece of paper or pencil. Now, one of the reasons, so please stop writing right now. You can continue writing after I'm done here. One of the reasons I wanted you to write it down is there's been a lot of studies that show having a dream but writing it down makes you more of a chance for you to achieve that goal or that dream. So it's important that you write it down. I'd like to take a quick moment here. So the next level for it is to share your goal. So if you want to get that goal to be achieved, you should share it with others. Like I shared my goal to see my abs. We're getting a little short on time here. So what I would encourage you to do is maybe share that with someone in your family today. And you'll see that once you share it, it makes it a little more real. So just a kind of insight into this. So I'm actually going to give you some homework. I don't think you guys were necessarily anticipating homework in this quick presentation that I was going to give you, is to do an action item in all 7 areas and to write it down. Now, if you want to get into more of this, I'm doing a half-day workshop. If you're interested in that and exploring, kind of unpacking this in a little more detail, please come and see me after this presentation or email me, and I'll get you that information. But I encourage you to do this homework and experience what it feels like to write a goal, right? To think about your goal, decide what you want, write the goal, and then share it with other people. And I'm going to end here with what a great quote with someone I truly admire is Theodore Roosevelt. And if you don't know, Theodore Roosevelt's responsible for the Parks program. He's responsible for, I think he wrote 30 books. I mean, it's really just amazing if you read his autobiography. And he says, in any moment of decision, the best thing you can do is the right thing. The next best thing you can do is the wrong thing, and the worst thing you can do is nothing. So think about this quote, decision. When you make a decision, you're going to take action on it. And only after you've taken that action can you decide whether it was the right thing or the wrong thing. So you see how all three of these things come together. But it all starts with deciding what you want. Then you can put all these other pieces together to make yourself successful. I thank you all so very much for your time here today. I appreciate it. I encourage you to look into your life and the goals that you want. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Well done, Chris.
Nice.
Good stuff.
All right. Get out there. See. So a little bit, I'm going to take I'm going to limit it to 5 minutes for me, Brian, so we can have a little time at the end. So I'd like to maybe hear what worked for you guys first, and then we can get into our areas of improvement. I'm sure there were some. So I'm just going to kind of go in order. So maybe Rodney, you could just
yeah. First of all, thanks, Chris, for jumping in and being the guinea pig of kind of building the first presentation, giving us some ideas and kind of how all this can work through Zoom. I think that's important for me just to underscore. So thanks for kind of having the courage and getting out there and making this happen for us. I've got quite a bit of notes here. I was just really trying to go along with what I heard and what I felt, opposed to really trying to dig into the content flow. I thought the story was good. I really liked the imagery at the beginning with the microphone and the crowd in the background. It gave me an understanding that, wow, you really do take comedy seriously.
I do take my comedy seriously, yes.
Yeah. I mean, I got to know you out in Palm Springs. You're like the brother I never had, so you know that. But I didn't really know if comedy was something, on the sidelines that you were looking to do. So that helped me understand you a little bit more, first and foremost. It gave you some credibility. I think the breakthrough goal was quite astonishing. That's a pretty big time goal. You certainly can do that. The D+A=R for decision action results. It kind of made me think a little bit, with our E+R=O. I mean, all in all, it was a good flow. I think in the 15-minute format of looking through a monitor, it's hard to get kind of a thought with a feeling, with an emotion that creates action. And I'm just not sure if the platform allows that to happen. So I'm not really looking for deep feedback that I'm going to give you on that. But I thought the story was good, but it could have, maybe it could have tied more into, your last bullet point on your slide of take 100% responsibility. It never really got to that. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more of that. I thought the quotes with Richard Branson and the impersonations of Elvis and Darth Vader were a nice little comic relief. Clarity is power is the whole goal of deciding what we want. So I thought you hit that really well. And then being clear on what you want, kind of leaning towards a vision board, so to say, and then picking out one of the top 7 goals that perhaps is a shortcoming of ours currently. That was insightful for me as well. So all in all, I think your energy was attractive. It made me feel comfortable with you. You got a real natural approachability to you, which is just a gift you have. The story of your Achilles rupture and then taking a pause in life and trying to understand, is it easier right now for comedy coming back to that? I thought that was interesting. So maybe dig a little bit more into what that all means. I don't know, but I liked it. You made me feel comfortable. There's some action items for me to take forward on in a 15-minute platform through a monitor. I'd give it a strong A. So thank you.
Thank you. I mean, and again, I appreciate you guys. Look, we're experimenting with this format, see how it works, and I think this is a good first step. So I thank you for your feedback. How much time do we have left, Brian?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, we're at the halfway point of the meeting here. We could go and finish up feedback for you probably the rest of the meeting, or we can move on. or we
I
can
think we should move on. I think we should move on because Matt's ready. What I would do is, and I'm thinking maybe we'll talk about this at the end and we can improve the feedback piece. I would encourage you, let's email the format to people at the end of the meeting, because I think it might, given the time frame, it might be a challenge to get in all the feedback that we want. So let's just email the feedback, if you would, to me in that format, what you thought worked and what you thought my improvement opportunities are. All right. Thank you, Rodney, for being the first one to give the feedback. I appreciate that. Matt, are you ready to go?
Yeah.
All right. You can take the screen and share your screen. You should be able to see that button on your screen, so we'll get you up and running.
So we're doing 20 minutes?
Yep.
Right? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. You saw my hand signals, right?
That works very well, by the way.
Sometimes. Okay. You got to stop sharing your screen, it says.
There we go. Thank you.
Say when.
I'm not sure what you guys see right now.
You.
You.
So
down the bottom, you should see a button that's green that says share screen.
Yeah, I did, but now it comes up and, oh, I see. I'm sorry, I had two computers going trying to get this thing working.
All right. 20 minutes.
Can you guys see my screen?
Yep.
Did I mention that thing about the tech guy?
Well, this is stuff that's going to come up on these things. This is stuff that you need to be aware of and setting up ahead of time, getting there, make sure you practice whatever it is. These are all the struggles that
It's good to get worked out now.
yeah.
We're working them out now, so, it's the way it goes.
Yeah, I don't know why it's not loading it.
I think this is one of those things where, again, getting it loaded up beforehand. That's why I like PowerPoint, but I'm
Well,
not,
it was sitting there. I don't know why it's not showing you guys.
Well, but this is good. Quite honestly, this is good for us to learn. The prep team. It's one of these reasons why we get here early, and I appreciate you, Matt, for getting on early and us working out your tech difficulties as best we could.
Yeah, I don't have any idea, man. Is everybody using Keynote or PowerPoint?
Yeah.
'Cause mine is Prezi. It's an online.
Probably use Google Drive.
So since we're here,
I can try one more thing.
Yeah. So while Matt's figuring that out, what do you guys think about the feedback? I think 10 minutes would be nice, but I think maybe we'll have to look at maybe the feedback being mostly online following that point, and maybe having one person who gives the feedback and the other people do it via email. What do you think?
I think, just after kind of guinea pigging this a little bit, and that's my new ism for the morning. I've never used that as frequently as I have. But I think we should be all about the presentation, and then have a dedicated half hour after the presentations for feedback. My opinion, I think it disrupts the flow.
There's no way I can just show you guys another screen, is there?
Man, if you got an idea, let's just do it, man.
I just don't know how well that's going to see.
Oh, that works.
Can you guys see that?
It's not perfect, but it'll work.
All right. At least you'll get the idea. I apologize, guys.
We're working it out, man.
That's all right.
We're going down to 15 minutes or 20 minutes.
Okay. I can cut out a little bit. Okay, let's just get going. And in case you weren't listening to Chris, it's the exact same thing. So,
No, it's
ready?
not your thing.
15 minutes. 15 now.
Go.
Okay.
Go.
Well, hi, guys. Thank you for having me here today. I'm very grateful for your time. My name is Matthew Hale, and I am a certified success principles coach through the Jack Canfield Group. Jack is one of the most successful coaches, authors, and leaders in self-development. And if you don't recognize Jack from this picture, you've probably heard of some of his books like Chicken Soup for the Soul, and he's also appeared on the movie The Secret. And I'm here today to teach you these principles that will help you get from where you are to where you want to be anywhere in your life. Most people do not realize their own power, and they allow life to happen to them instead of creating the life that they want. The ironic part is, though, we all create our lives. So if we are not deliberately creating it, we are allowing what's going on around us to determine what we think, the things we think about, and what we expect for our futures. Your thoughts and mental pictures that you hold in your head and the way you feel about those actually create your life. So the good thing, though, is these thoughts are also choices. So if you're not living the life you really want, the good news is you can change it. Now let me show you an example of just how powerful each one of your thoughts really are. We're going to do a simple little exercise involving your hands. So just free your hands up. Take a look at your palm, and you have this line on your wrist right here. Line that up with the other one, and you bring them together like this. And when you're looking at them, one hand will probably be just a little bit longer than the other. It's usually the case for most people. So take the hand that's shorter, hold it out in front of your face, and if both of your hands are about the same, just pick any one you want and hold it out in front of your face. And with the power of our intention, we're going to make this hand grow longer. So out loud, we are all going to say at the same time, grow longer 8 times. You guys ready? Go. Grow longer, 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 grow longer. Now take that line them back up, and put your hands together again. Did anybody see any difference? It's pretty crazy, isn't it? Just by the power of your intention. Now, I don't want you guys to walk around with a weirdly wrong hand all day, so let's get that one to go back to normal. Put that hand out in front of your face again, and we're going to say all together out loud 6 times, go back to normal. Ready? Back to normal, 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 back to normal. Now get that line again, line your hands up, and put them back together. It's pretty crazy. Just a little trick to kind of show you guys the power of your intentions and the powers of what you're thinking. But be careful now that you're superheroes, because these powers can lead to some pretty drastic results. That's gross, isn't it? Now, like I said before, we all create our lives. If we are not deliberately creating them, we are creating our lives from a reactionary state, meaning that when something good happens, you feel in a good mood. And when something bad happens, you're in a bad mood, or you have negative thoughts. So like watching the news a lot will put you in a certain mind depending on what the news is about. And this is true for most people, by the way, and it was true for me too. So most people don't change because they feel like something or someone else is running the show. It feels a little helpless. We feel stuck. We can feel trapped in life, and we experience feelings of lack and not having enough. Just can't seem to figure out how to change. So figuring out the how was the biggest problem for me for a long time. When I graduated college, I started off with just a sales job, and I've been in sales ever since. It hasn't been awful. Some of the jobs have been pretty good, kind of made me feel like I was on my way up. Some of the jobs, they weren't so good. But none of the jobs I've had felt right. None of them felt fulfilling. None of the jobs I've had made me want to just get out of bed and get ready to tackle my day. I was at that point where I felt stuck and I felt frustrated. It's like I knew I wanted more. I knew I wanted better, but I just couldn't figure out the how to change my life. Starting a new career was feeling overwhelming. Getting another sales job felt like I was just going down the same path. And I was getting a little bit older. I had bills. I have responsibilities, a house payment. I have a wife. And finally, I was having children. So how could I quit everything and try something new? I was not going to put my family through all this financial hardship because Matthew's not happy. That just felt selfish and didn't feel right to me. So there I was. I'm not very young anymore. I'm unhappy with my career. I'm unhappy with my finances. I'm married. I got one child, and I got another one on the way. All of my blood family lives in another state, and I don't even get to go see them because I can't afford it. And I just cannot figure out the how to change. And that's how I was feeling with this background right here. I felt like success was that lock. Happiness was in that lock, and I could not find the right key. I was frustrated and didn't know what to do. Anyone here else feel like you want to do something in your life? You want to go bigger, you want to do something different, but you just don't know where to start? Yeah, me too. That's exactly how I was. But I tell you what, I remember this one moment. I was sitting in my car, probably eating lunch like I usually did, tired of thinking about my future, tired of trying to come up with an idea for how I could do something different. And I just decided to quit focusing on the how. I decided I would just start reading some books, and maybe those could help put me on a better path. I felt good doing them, but the how still wasn't quite showing up. And then one day, I heard Jack Canfield speaking on a podcast, and he was talking about these success principles, and it immediately clicked with me. So I went out and I bought his book, and after reading Jack's book, that's when I finally decided that I realized what my mistake was. I was focusing on something I had no control over. And Jack taught me the 3 key differences of highly successful people versus everyday people. And the number one thing was they have unusual clarity about their purpose, their mission, their vision, their goals. The second thing is they have developed powerful success habits. And then finally, they take 100% responsibility for their results, and they are action-oriented. Now, we are going to discuss all 3 of these today, but I want to start with the top one, because that's where I was making my mistake. You got to be clear on what you want. I was focusing on how to change, how to do something different, how to make my life different. And the first success principle I want to talk about is being clear on what you want. I should have been focused more on how I wanted my life to look like. What kind of money did I want to make? What kind of relationships did I want? I should have put a picture of the what instead of focusing so much on the how. Now, the cool thing is the how is the journey of life. If you let go of the how and focus on the what, you can enjoy the way life flows to you. So stop trying to figure out the how, because that is what keeps you stuck going nowhere. Now, if you don't know what you want, you can never get it. These high achievers I was talking about know exactly what they want and why they want it. This step is so important, I wanted to start with it with you. Because most people don't sit down and clearly write out what they want in life. Most people will say something like, oh, I want a bigger house, or I want more money, or I want to lose weight. And the problem these statements are way too vague. They don't really say what you want. So instead of saying, I want a bigger house, say, I want a 3,500 square foot house in the foothills of Albuquerque. Or instead of, I want more money, I want to earn $100,000 a year. And you don't want to just lose weight. I want to feel fit and alive weighing 185. Now all of a sudden we have some measurable wants, goals. We're starting to get some clarity. So step 1 on deciding what you want is be very specific. That's actually going to make a very big difference. Now, whatever you do, as we're talking about, as we go through a little bit here and talk about what we're wanting, I want you to think big. I want you to think of something that gets you excited. It's got to be fun. This is not a place where you have to settle. We are just dreaming here. Now, General Wesley Clark of NATO once said, it doesn't take any more energy to dream a big dream than it does a small dream. And John F. Kennedy was quoted as saying, in his experience, the only difference between the superachievers and the rest of the world is that the superachievers simply dream bigger. They simply dream bigger. Now think about that. The only thing that keeps us back is the limitations we put on our own imagination. So we're going to talk about your own specific goals in a minute. And if any one of you says you want to pick up a toothbrush at Walmart later, I'm going to come out there and slap you personally. So no matter what you pick, just make sure it gets you excited. That's the important thing. And here's a fun fact about your wants and your desires as well. I believe you will not dream of something that you cannot achieve. Like, for an example, I will probably never have a thought, a dream, or an intuition on how to reinvent the physics textbook or how physics is taught in schools. It's just not my thing. Or how to put a presentation online, as you can see. That's not something I'm going to come up with. However, Chris, for example, might not decide the best way to come up with a new golf swing or how to chip or putt, because maybe that's not his thing. But think about that. If you have a thought, if you have a dream or a fantasy or it comes in your mind, you can achieve it. You can achieve it if you put your focus on that. You have the power to create anything. So believe that. Now, what holds us back is that we go back to that how. We can't figure out how something's going to happen. So let's say you have a dream, I want to make $10 million. But I don't know how to make $10 million. So I guess making maybe $1 million would be still cool. But God, I don't know how to make $1 million. The job I have now pays 30. And maybe if I poof, just like that, your dream is gone because you limited yourself on what you really wanted. Now, that is a limiting belief, and it is self-doubt, and it holds us back. But I want you to know that is there for a reason. When we were all born, we started out knowing exactly what we wanted. There's this little seed inside of all of us that knows exactly what we were meant to be, what we want. When you're a baby, you cry. You want to get fed. You want a diaper change. You want to be held, whatever it is. And you just do whatever's necessary. And as you get a little bit older, you crawl around and you go to whatever holds your most interest. And you go after what you want without any fear. That's how we were born. But something happens along the way. A parent probably tells you, stop doing that. Don't jump on that. You shouldn't touch that. You don't really want to do that. You get a little bit older and people will tell you, you can't have everything you want just because you want it. Stop being so selfish. Come over here and do what I want you to do. And of course, the big one, money doesn't grow on trees. So the lesson here is don't follow someone else's dream. After all these years of sanctions, we've kind of buried that seed deep inside of us of what our own true desires and wants are. And so when you're talking about what you want, it's okay to let it go. It's okay to want $1 million. It's okay to want whatever pops into your mind. And you start doing that by coming clear on what you want. And basically also, when we ask teenagers, kind of with all this pushing it aside, what they want in life, they're confused. They say they don't know. They don't know where their life's going. And that's because of the way we've held it back. There are 7 areas of your life that I think you should focus on when you're trying to be clear on what you want. You have your business, you have financial, relationships, health and fitness, fun and recreation, your personal, and contribution and legacy. Now, I can speak from experience when I say contribution and legacy is hard to focus on when you're not making a lot of money and you don't have a lot of extra resources. But I want to tell you a quick story about Ken Behring. Ken Behring was once the owner of the Seattle Supersonics, or Seattle Seahawks, I apologize. The Supersonics have been gone for a few years now. But he gave a speech about the 4 stages of life. And really quickly, what it was is his first stage was stuff. He thought if he bought a lot of stuff, he'd be happy. But he found out that wasn't true. So his second stage was better stuff. He bought a bigger house, more cars, a boat, and he thought that would make him happy, and that wasn't the case. His third stage was different stuff, and that's when he bought the football team. He thought he'd be a man of the boys, and he'd have everything, and everyone would be happy, but he wasn't quite fulfilled. So one day he had a friend who was going over to Europe somewhere, and they were going to pass out wheelchairs and supplies to people to little kids who might have had their legs blown off due to old war mines or disease and things like that. And so he was out there handing out supplies, and one little boy he picked up, he was probably about 8, 9, 10 years old, and he sets him in the chair, and then he turns around to get another wheelchair for the next kid, and that little boy's holding his leg. And he looks back at the guy, and through an interpreter, that little boy said, "Just give me one moment. I want to memorize your face, because when I see you again in heaven, I want to thank you one more time." That was the first time Ken said he experienced pure joy in his life. And it came through contribution and helping others. So when you're trying to be clear, always remember it's important to give back, because it is true that you get what you give. So before we move on, I think it's important to write down 1 or 2 goals in any 2 of these areas of your life. If you can focus on just 1 or 2, we can write that down, and we'll get more into those as we go through with the rest of the presentation. So take a few minutes and do that now. And that is the end of my first segment, or my 15 minutes. Thank you for your time.
Good job, man.
Hey.
Matt, I really like the imagery. So I think that's good. Brian, how much time do we have left in our meeting?
9 minutes.
Got about 9 minutes. So I'm going to say I think it's important to hear at least one person verbally give you feedback after the presentation, even if not everyone's allowed to do that. And then the rest of us can do it via email, or we have to structure it so it's quick. So Matt, I'm going to try to do this in a quick fashion, and then I'll give more detail later. But
Okay.
what you did was really funny. I thought you handled the technical difficulties well, which is important because they come up. It happened in my speech with Jack Canfield when I had to do my 15-minute. You handled it really well, and then you got your transitions in. Love the jokes, love the images. Improvement opportunity for me was your voice inflection. I think there's a little bit of an improvement opportunity there. So when you listen back to it, I think your passion could come through a little clearer in the way you talk. But other than that, man, I thought you nailed it. It was good for me.
Thank you. Yeah, and I'll just say too, because my big picture was obviously putting together the hour presentation, and that's why when it was kind of running long to 20 minutes, I was just kind of like, I'm going to cut it out somewhere else. I don't know, but thank you. I appreciate it. I'll look at it.
Okay.
If I hadn't known you were cutting stuff out, I would have thought you had a great segue into the close. And I'm sure Chris meant with this, but the imagery, I felt like I was part of your story. You did a great job of I don't know if it was the voice inflection or the emotion that you put into it, but I almost got teary-eyed at the wheelchair story again, and I've heard that a dozen times. But the way you told it was very passionate. The only thing really from a dislike, I would say the very beginning was a little bit of a slow start. It felt like you were reading. So I would say if you do have that written out all the way, make it more bullet points. I liked the slides and the imagery. The feel, felt, found. I mean, I got emotionally engaged with you very quickly. So that was great.
Thank you.
Yeah, one thing I would say, Matt, it was a nice presentation. The first 5 minutes is really hooking your crowd. I felt that the Canfield credibility piece was a little bit red, and then segueing into the hand imagery, I put in the words clunky in my notes, and I just felt like I needed that unpacked a little bit more for credibility of what you were doing. But I really like the figuring out the how and getting clarity before we make inspired choices.
Rodney, you think I should cut out the Canfield stuff?
Well, I wouldn't say cut it out. First of all, the voice reflection came across to me as you were reading it.
I was reading it.
Yeah. That's okay. I'm just here to give you, what would work for me. That's all.
Sure.
And then I would maybe move the hand imagery down in my outline and give me more of your narrative and who you are. And then that allows me to get a little bit more comfortable with your flow, opposed to getting into make the hand grow more, which is an exercise that was a moment of enlightenment for me out in Newport. It does work, but I just wasn't there yet. It wasn't unpacked, as they say, right?
Okay. Appreciate that.
Brian, would you mind sharing? You haven't had a chance.
Well, what I've seen with this is it really gives me an idea how this whole format of these meetings, some input that I think we need. I think I'm glad you guys both went. I'm glad let's do this. Let's get this thing done. But what I'm looking at here is what is the structure that we're going for with each one of us? It doesn't have to be the same. I do have some basic outlines of things to hit on points within a presentation. And then it's a good way for us to evaluate it too, is to go through that. If I go through a basic structure of a speech, a warm-up, a setup, the message, and the close, and the subcategories of that, you don't have to hit all those points exactly, but at least we could say you did well. I really like this point about this visual aspect here, or I didn't really get how you transition from here to here as well. So I have this stuff. I probably can type this stuff up and put this a part of this and see if this is how we want to do this. But I think it'd be a good way of evaluating each other on doing this, because I think if we understand what we're trying to accomplish in this, then we can evaluate each other in exactly what we're doing. I think that's what's crucial in this, is having that structure. And like I said, I can type some of this stuff up if you want.
I think Brian hits a good point here. First of all, there's no right or wrong. I think what we're doing is fantastic. So just the courage to get out there and be critiqued right now is something to be commended. But, you know, as I look at this little dot on my monitor and I listen to what I heard today, does it move me to get up and take action? It felt very academic to me, but that's okay. That's where we have to start. I would almost look at it as, are we looking through the monitor to truly help somebody release the brakes of life, to set clear, measurable, specific goals, and can we touch them? And maybe that is not exactly accessible through this monitor, but at least we're trying. And what I would say is, as a group, maybe get a little bit more focused on one specific imagery or lesson. You know, for example, I wrote on Matt's, your thoughts lead you to your dreams. And basically what you're trying to say is your thoughts leave clues, and then put clarity to that. And once you have clarity, then you get the how, right? That was kind of my theme of your talk. Just that theme alone would be enough for me to get up and go, you know, my thoughts lead me to my dreams, and they leave clues, and now I just need to put some how behind it. You know, that alone would be 15 minutes for me to say, you know what, I'm going to get up, I'm going to go out in my garage here, and I'm going to think a little bit differently today. So I'm going to close here and not speak again, but I think we're doing a great job. I like the courageous act of this group. I'm just thinking we need to get a little bit more vanilla on maybe one point, and then see how that flows as we do Q&A. Just my feedback.
Yeah. So we got 2 minutes left. Guys, so question, do we want to take a little extra time to talk about the structure, or do we want to loop back next week? And because we've got 5 people, so we could do one person next week and do a little extra discussion about our formatting, or we could, and I think that might be warranted. I'm kind of in my head, my gut saying, let's do one person next week, do the feedback, and then kind of work on what our structure should be as a group. Are you guys okay with that idea? And then have 2 the following week? What do you think?
That works. And I think we could all give you some feedback on some structure possibilities, and, you know, talk that way we can have some content. And if you don't mind, plug in, I'd love to go next week, just in preparation for my 2 talks the following week. And I will be back in Tulsa, so I'll have, you know, we won't be on a shared screen.
Cool. Awesome.
I'm good with that. So I'm gonna say yes to that, if that's okay. Is everybody on board with that? One person, and then we'll talk more structure. Just show me a show of hands so I can see it. All right, so then we're gonna move with that. So that's our structure for next week. So Joanna, you'll go, and then our action item for next week will be maybe a little bit of the structure, and we'll talk. You know, I'm kind of looking at my notes here. Let me go back to my notes from my mastermind group. Was our action items from last week. Maybe we can loop back to those next week. Does anybody want to talk for a little while longer, maybe 10 minutes? just to talk a little bit of the structure overall, since it seems to be in our mind. Is everyone okay with that, or does anybody have to drop off?
I can stay on, Chris.
Okay.
I've got to go here shortly, but I do have this. I do all kinds of notes about, structures, feedback, this kind of stuff. Just an idea, a model to start off of, and we can condense it or change it. So I have a rough draft that we can start off of for this. If you want me to type this up, I can put it in the Google Drive file. If you guys like that, we can modify it from that. We didn't get to the charity idea this week either, because that was what we were going to talk about too. So maybe
I'll put an agenda. How about I'll put an agenda together for the meeting for next week. That'll include the structure and some of these other action items. I'll put it this way. I thought was a good start. We have two goals.
I agree.
This is really the Keynote development, but also developing the Keynote development mastermind group. So there's kind of two pieces. I think it was important to get it going. And maybe on the early stages of this, maybe it's just one a week so we can work on structure and then work to 2 a week. But let's discuss that next week and see how that goes. So Brian, I'd appreciate if you write up your notes. Let me noodle it a little bit. I like the idea at least having one person going, because then it's the actual action of development. So I think, Joanna, I appreciate you volunteering for next.
I appreciate the opportunity to practice. Thank you.
Does anyone want to go the following week so we make sure that we have, Brian, Rod, do you guys want to go the following week, or the week after that?
Yeah, I'm willing to jump in whenever you need me. So, Brian, if your schedule doesn't work after Joanna, I can jump in, or if your schedule is more convenient after Joanna, just let me know. Either way, I can jump in.
Right.
What do you prefer?
You're welcome to go.
All right, I'll go the week after Joanna, and it sounds like we're going to do one per week at that point. Is that correct?
I think that was the decision. If I understand the group, let's go with one person a week, get the feedback, and then work on the structure, and then we can tweak it for the next round. Is that fair?
Good.
Yeah, I mean, if you're doing 15 minutes and we did 5 minutes apiece on feedback, and then we have the business in the beginning of the meeting, wrap up for the meeting, that's an hour.
Yep. Okay, let's go with that structure, and then we'll tweak it. All right?
All right.
Guys.
Cool. So I think we have some good action items for next week. Look, again, I'd like to end with I'll do our close here then. Look, how do I say this? I'm truly thankful and grateful for all of you for joining in this experiment. I think it's gonna work really well. I really feel like I got the right team together. Brian, I just feel like I got the energy from the group that this is something that's going to work for us, and it's something that has a lot of potential in it. And with the minds that we got here, I'm really looking forward to seeing what we create out of this. And I see that vision of us having events that come out of these meetings and having us all on stage speaking together, having Jack there. So I like to put that image in your head, because I think that's what Brian and I, when we were talking about early on, we were envisioning on this. And when I was thinking of this idea, that idea of getting us an opportunity for all work together. So I'll put that image in you, and I really feel in your mind, and say, look, I'm just thankful for you guys. I appreciate you Saturday morning getting up and doing this. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
Awesome. Thanks, Chris.
All right.
Bye, guys.
You going to stay on for a minute, Rod?
Yeah, I'm going to stay on.
Okay. All right. If you want to drop off, Brian, I know you have to go.
I gotta go to work.
Yeah. So thank you, guys. Joanna, good seeing you. Also.
See you, Brian. See you, Joanna.
Yes, you're right.
Guys.
Matt, are you still on?
Yeah, can you hear me?
I
Can't see you,
but I
though.
can't see you. You know, I love to see your lovely face. I know how it goes.
I guess what I'll do for next week is I'll learn computers real quick. Like, I don't know what's going on, man. It's like my video won't work, and it just bumped me off. So maybe it's my connection.
Yeah, well, it could be. Well, I'm glad to have you back on. No worries if we can't get the video going. I'm just want to kind of loop back on the feedback since you're on the line here real quick. The stuff that Rod said I thought was kind of key. I'd like to connect to you a little more. It's one of the reasons why I moved my story up to the beginning, because I figure that connects the audience to me. That's again a lot of this keynote development is to get that personal story. And I think it's really important to have that earlier in your presentation so people have a connection to you.
Okay.
And I'm not saying I know the formula, but I'm just saying the later part of your presentation, I really started to get engaged. But that beginning where you were reading and those pieces, when you were telling your story, ooh, that was the juicy stuff. So yeah, move that up earlier, because I want that connection. Like, oh yeah, I can relate to that. Now, when you get into the hand thing and when you get into the Jack Canfield, you give yourself the credibility and the other pieces. It comes in later. And I'm not saying I'm know-it-all on format, but I'm just saying from what I like was that. And the more you get people to buy into that, I think it's going to be the power of these presentations in the keynote.
Okay. Well, I like that. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, if you were to stand in front of the crowd and just yell, "Don't follow other people's dreams," and just stood there and paused for 5 seconds and stared at everybody, that would be a much more powerful opening than reading Jack Canfield's methodology stuff, once again, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of studies out there that talk about that first 17 seconds, that first 30 seconds in front of a crowd. You really have to have an aha moment. Why is this guy standing in front of me? Why am I here today? And why do I want to give him my 15 minutes of time, right? So I really like, your style at the end. And I'm like, there's the Matt I don't know, but I'm starting to like. So, yeah, just, and I know we're kind of becoming friends to the monitor here, and I can't see you in the black. Turn the light on, right? But
yeah, I took my clothes off. Made me more comfortable.
But it's so easy to be, critical feedback here, and it's part of what we're doing. But there's a lot of good here, so don't take any negativity away from this, but let the natural Matt come out first, and then get into what does focusing on the how did that set you back, right? So
I appreciate it. And I tell you what, the reason I was trying to do the hand thing early, and I know it's a little rough over the video, especially with the way I was going, is I wanted to get the audience involved quickly. You know what I mean? I wanted to do something, because that does go over well when you do it. And I thought, maybe if I get it in there in the beginning, I can kind of get them going, oh shit, look at this. This is fun. Yeah. But no, I think your feedback's great. I'm going to just change it around so that my story's a little more first, and then we'll do that at a different point.
Ron, I just want to say,
because when you think about what we're trying to do, I'm sorry, Chris, but when we put together a vision board and we do our, kind of our 7 areas, what we're trying to do is create clarity on what we want. And then once we have a clear understanding of what we want, we then have to go into some type of action mode and do the how. So I don't think throwing the how out is necessarily a good thing. It still has to be, you still have to have that execution once you're clear on what you want. So I think you're touching all the right things. It's just kind of the flow of getting a clear, specific, measurable goal and then acting on the how. And just those 2 concepts right there could be your whole talk.
Okay. Appreciate that feedback, man.
So, Rod, I want to say thank you for that feedback. I like that idea of starting out with a really powerful question early on. It's a really good idea when you're writing. Oh, look, the sun has come out, and now I'm going.
You're beautiful, Chris. You're beautiful.
There's a halo above your head. What's going on?
That's kind of fascinating. All right. Apparently the sun's beaming through on my bald skull. Sorry for the distraction. So gonna tell you. Here's something from stand-up comedy, and I want you to think about this, Matt, because you are funny. Okay, you are a funny guy.
Okay.
Your first joke defines you. So that's why I think when I said like the passion early on, that's where I felt the disconnect. What you want to do is you want something that's going to capture the audience in the beginning. And your story, your personal story, is what I'm going to relate to the most. Like if you nail that, and I'm like, ooh, I want to hear more from this guy. So so I would say is I like what Rodney said. And I'm actually thinking I'm going to adapt that for mine too. So that's why I said thank you to that. But think about that first thing that you're going to say that's going to win them over. Now, me, I tend towards jokes because that's what I do. And I figure if people are laughing, it kind of brings people together, right? And that's why Jack starts with the cartoons, because he's not necessarily a comedian. He's a funny guy, but it's more, he uses the cartoons as that warm up.
Yeah.
And I use the joke. So I mean, I like what Rod said. So there's that opportunity there to really kind of bring them in and go, let me tell you why I'm saying this to you, right? In my life, I found this. And you go into the credibility and the other piece, but you've already warmed people to your heart and you've geared your engine up. So the way I'm really trying to structure a lot of this on my stand-up routine, which is strong opening, strong close. You want a bookend. You want, they got your attention in the beginning, and then at the end, like, yeah. And then it's a story. The presentation's a story. It's an arc. You're going to have high points and low points and maybe different kinds of emotions, but that's the arc you want to go through. But you want to grab them in the beginning. So Rod's feedback on that is really key. And I like what Brian was saying about setting a structure. You're open, your content, your close, but in stand-up, beginning and end, you want that drop the mic moment at the end, right? I won him over at the beginning, and at the end you're like, near him out, whatever that is for you, that strong close, right? I want more of him. What else do you do? God, man, I'm
fired up, dude.
The light on it. Hey, would you mind closing the screen there so I don't?
Yeah, it's like Disciple Chris.
Yeah.
Hannibal Lecter coming at you here.
This got weird quick, man. This got real weird.
Yeah.
Well, you're the one who went naked. What do you want from me?
Yeah,
After I do a PK, I just have to strip off all my clothes. Oh, good Lordy. All right.
Well, thank you guys for the feedback. I appreciate it.
Well, it's easy to, like I said, it's either hand and going first says a lot about you. This stuff is, I think I keep going back to our audience feeling what we're saying. You've got to create, it all comes with a thought, right? So we're taking a thought and we're speaking. And in that speaking engagement, we're trying to connect them to us. Does this guy get me? So we've got to get to a feeling. And once you get that feeling, and we all know a speaker that we met once or twice in our life, it's like, dang, this guy is really good. And you don't even know why you like him, right?
Yeah.
So that feeling or persuasive rhetoric going on to hook you, they're going to know, right? So that natural connection, I think that's where it comes down to just being courageous in front of people, which is why most people don't like public speaking. Because, you go to a bar, you sit with your friends over the holidays, there's no script, there's no outline, and yet they like you even more, right? So I think, having a thought, creating a feeling, and then getting an emotional connection behind that so they can take action. That's really our goal in all this, right?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Look, guys.
Cool. Did you guys need to talk on your own?
I don't know that we needed to talk on our own, but.
Oh, I was wondering why.
What are you perceiving? Is there something that?
Yeah. What are you leading to here, man?
Well, you guys kicked Brian and Joanna off, and I thought maybe I was supposed to leave, and then you wanted to rip me a new asshole again on how poor I was.
No, man, come on.
No, I didn't know if you two had something going.
No, look, Matt, seriously, you are enough of an asshole. We don't need to rip you a new one. I'm just saying. All right, look, fellas. You know what I'm getting out of this, and I just want to throw this idea here is either I think it's important to hear the feedback from other people and different voices because everybody sees something differently. And the feedback that you gave, Rod, was important for me to hear because it made me start thinking about other ideas to improve my speech, even though it wasn't directed at mine. I'm like, ooh, that's a good point. And I'm getting the idea here that either we're going to have to expand the time to like an hour and a half to get 2 people in, or keep it to 1 person. Because this interplay here, I think is the juiciness that's going to help people develop that speech. And it's just different opinions because like, look, when you create something, your story or whatever, you're so used to it in your head. Now getting these other perspectives. What did people buy into? And what didn't they? What would they like to have seen? What did they feel wasn't complete? Like when you said, hey, Chris, I wanted to see that completion piece. It felt incomplete to me, right? So those are important pieces. Even if it's an hour-long speech, you want that 15-minute increments. Like I said, it's a long story, but each story has a chapter in it. You want that chapter to be complete. So if we're saying we're developing an hour-long speech, the first chapter should have a beginning, middle, and an end, as well as this overall story should have a beginning, middle, and end. Then you start on the next piece, which may be your next success principle. And again, that same thing, beginning, middle, and end, but that in and of itself is complete. And then the whole thing ties together to make your full presentation or your full story. So this feedback, I think, is kind of critical, I think, to the success of developing these keynotes. So just my thought.
I took back in the 90s, full disclosure, I went to seminary and I took a homiletics course, where you had to do professional public speaking. You want to talk about pressure, right? You're in a room with these gurus coming from all corners of the globe, right? But they taught me something, and it was called PSA or PSP. I brought it up on the previous call, but PSA, and you could just call it public service announcement for recollection. It helps you a week from now to recall it. But PSA is point, story, application. So, if your point is don't follow other people's dreams, and the application is get clear and specific on your visions of being health and fitness guru, then the application is to create a goal structure. PSA can go 3 different loops in different forums, different topics, different venues, different arenas, right? But basically you're trying to say, here's my point, here's my story, and here's the application for you. Something to think about it, really. So they'd throw we'd be in front of like 300 people, and the guy would grab something out of a satchel bag, kind of similar to Palm Springs, Chris. But there'd be a guy, and he threw me a dish rag. I'll never forget it. And a dirty old dish rag, and I had to do a PSA with it, right? And it talked about my grandmother when I was younger, her making cookies, and how the dish towel reminded me of the smell of the fragrance of making cookies, and then the application was me always going out into life, referring back to my grandmother with her kindness and loveness of making cookies, right? Just PSA. So sometimes it doesn't really need to be that technical. It's just taking an imagery and trying to connect with the crowd. But PSA has changed my life. It's something I take into every arena that I talk, and it doesn't need to be difficult. Make it very simple. So just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, thank you. That's good stuff.
All right, fellas. I think
Going along.
I think my kids are going to be getting up soon. Matt, did anything you wanted to add? How did you feel for you? Like, what was your experience with giving the presentation?
It was good. I agree. I think all the feedback part is, like you said, is the juiciest, best part of it. It's almost like if we could just get rid of the presentation and get down to the feedback, that'd be awesome. Because that's really where the learning comes from. So, I think one thing too we got to keep in mind, from what I keep hearing everyone talking about structure, is, what is our goal here though? Our goal is to help each other create awesome presentations. So, I don't know. I'm up for maybe an extra hour on a Wednesday night if we can throw it in, if someone else just wants to shoot the shit like this, maybe just the three of us, or we do a little more feedback email wise, or I'm not as attached to structure as I am to what our result is going to be. So, if we have, maybe I have 2 hours this Saturday and you guys want to stay on for another hour afterwards, I'm up for it. You know what I mean? So that's the only thing I would kind of throw in there is I don't care the structure. I want everyone to leave this feeling great about what they have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, but to Rod's point, there is a little bit of formula in what you're doing, right? I mean, in storytelling, there's a little bit of a formula in what you do. I mean, that's what Jack Canfield talks about, the point, story, point kind of ideas in it and having the activities in it. So
I mean structure as far as our calls go versus the speech, Chris.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, no, I understand. Yeah, I understand that. I'm just saying I'm just saying I'm open to looser structure as far as the calls go, or how often we talk, or how we can benefit each other.
Well, I appreciate that. One of the visions I have for this, though, is to develop something that's duplicatable. So I want to develop, for me, a structure to it that works, but allows for this kind of interplay. And this is what I want to hear. I mean, I understand for you, maybe the structure is not important, but we want to define. If it gets too loosey-goosey, then it goes off in too many tangents, and it's hard to duplicate it. So can we figure out a format of this and say, look, like, so for me, this was the big value add. I got a presentation, then I got to hear feedback from someone, and it's funny. What I was hungry for? I was hungry for more. I wanted to hear from you, Matt. I wanted to hear from Brian. I wanted to hear from Joanna what they thought worked well and what didn't, and then I can aggregate those ideas and go, okay, like this. Ooh, that was a good point. I was thinking that myself. Or, I could see that being an improvement opportunity. If you hear from 5 people in a row that this is your improvement opportunity, you might want to consider making that your change. So for me, this was the juicy part. So the question is how do we get the presentation in and the juicy part in the structure of our meeting? And we can work on the development piece of the overall structure of the meetings offline. But this piece I'd like to get kind of nailed down. But for me, it certainly felt like I wanted to hear more of things like Rod was saying, but I wanted to hear the other voices from our group. And I think that's where the biggest learning opportunity is for us to develop the awesome presentations. By the way, I think we found the name for our group. Awesome Presenters. Throw it out there. The name of our group is Awesome.
Yeah, there you go. With tassels.
And clothing is optional. Woo!
Yeah. Those are good points, Chris.
Yeah,
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, because
we'll see how it goes next week with one presenter then.
Yeah, let's see how that structure works. And like I say, the idea is to play with this a little bit. And my gut saying is I'd like to get 2 presenters because I'm trying to think of time frame of when the next time you get to talk. And I think 5 weeks might be a little too long to really kind of to work on it. I'd like to get a little more aggressive on it. So maybe the format is an hour and a half, get the 2 people speaking. That's a half an hour, and then you have a half hour good feedback and or an hour of feedback on that, 15 minutes each, 5 people. I got to work the math out on the numbers, but I want to make sure that we get this kind of juicy part going. But, that's the experiment of this. And that's why I appreciate you guys being on board.
Hey, Chris, quick question. Do we have a topic for each Saturday, or are we just coming with our own topic?
You come in with your own topic. I don't think I would want to structure that piece because, look, you may say I'm really passionate about talking about health or finance or whatever it is, and if I say your topic for this week is this, and that's not something you're passionate about, I want people to find the thing that they're passionate about and develop a speech around that. Because the goal is really to get to a goal. This is like the teaser. This is your appetizer, and maybe you have a thing saying, look, I have an hour-long speech at this, or I have my half-day workshop. If you liked what you heard here, come see me speak at this, or come see our, like Rod, you and I, our men's workshop in, wherever that's going to be, right?
Yeah. I appreciate you guys joining me today. Today's topic is going to be hot yoga. If we could just kindly if you could just, kindly undress here.
Turn your thermostat up to 102. I love it, man. Bring it on. I expect that to be your topic 2 weeks from today.
Yeah, I'm going to open up with a big white robe, right?
That's great. That's great, Rod.
Oh, good Lord. All right, gentlemen, look, I really appreciate this. I think we got a lot to think about and work for next week. I'm kind of curious how the format goes next week. Let's see how this goes and develop it. And again, Matt, thank you for, as Rod said, being courageous enough to get this going, in being one of the first ones to go and kind of get this kicked off. But look, it's all of us working together that's going to make this successful, and I really do feel warm. I think
we have a child. We have a child.
You can eat chocolate for breakfast. You can have chocolate for breakfast.
This is my 7-year-old son.
He's a mini me of Chris with hair.
Yeah, look at all that hair, man. Beautiful.
I had that hair when I was, It's been a while. All I gotta say is be thankful and grateful that balding comes through the mom's side, and all the men on her side have hair. So you don't have to worry about this happening to you. This is just, He's like, yay! All right, guys. I think that's my signal for today. I appreciate you staying on a little longer. Always great seeing you. And Matt, whatever you're doing, don't share.
All right,
guys. Have a great weekend, guys.
Bye.
Take care. Thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye.